Manchester United have won. They've come in here and nicked Benjamin Sesko out from under the nose of Newcastle. Hello, I am the Irish guy, and lads, I want Alexander Isak to stay at Newcastle. But Christ above, it is not looking good, because yesterday he wasn't invited to the Magpies barbecue. Seriously, it was a family day at the Newcastle Training Centre, where the players brought their wives and kids along to eat grilled sausages and knock back cups of Fanta Orange. But Isak, he was not invited. Reminds me of every single birthday party at school. And Isak has been told to stay away from the Newcastle players. Seriously, I'd imagine if he even bumps into Dan Byrne down his local Ponteland Tesco Express, Byrne has probably been instructed to immediately look at his shoes or to furiously study the back of a Cocoa Pops box until Isak leaves. Lads, I've been holding out the faint hope that Isak might stay at the club. But how on earth is that ever gonna happen? When Eddie Howe has basically told him he doesn't deserve to train with the club. Now, I know you shouldn't believe everything you read online. I mean, Christ above. A big rumor went around this week that Matt Target had been accidentally left behind in South Korea. What, like some sort of Asian Home Alone? Where Eddie Howe suddenly realizes there's an empty seat on the plane? Yeah, I'm guessing that rumor was complete cobblewash. I don't think Target is now having to get a job as a sushi chef. No, but the truth is that Isak is now like a divorced Eskimo, all alone out in the cold. So I didn't want Sesko, because I didn't want to face up to Newcastle having to get someone else. But Isak is a villain right now, and the club need a centre forward, and Benjamin Sesko, one of the hottest prospects in Europe, is joining Man United instead, and apparently Newcastle even offered him more wages. This is insane. Newcastle United are actually losing out on a talent to the club who just finished 10 spots behind them in the league. Under the gloomy Mike Ashley days, Newcastle always sold their star players to clubs who were in the Champions League. It was understandable, but now the club are literally in that competition themselves and still are losing out on players to clubs who aren't even in Europe at all. Honestly, I feel like throwing my earwax at the wall. What is going on? Can anyone remember any other club in Premier League history facing so many rejections in one summer? Honestly, if you look at the club's shopping list at the start of the window, it would have included exciting names like Dean Huijsen, João Pedro, Mateus Cunha, Mark Gehi. Yeah, look at it now, and you'll find an underlying name of a nearly 30-year-old Ollie Watkins. Still a fine player, sure, but you just know that his decline is coming rapid quick, because it's the caliber of these sort of 15-goal-a-season mid-table English strikers in the Prem. They don't gradually fade out. No, their careers are like a Sopranos ending. A quick cut to black. They usually come crushing down with a thud. Like Danny Ings, Golden Boot challenger with Southampton, to now early 30s and only having scored in 2 matches for West Ham. Callum Wilson, 18 goals for Newcastle in the 22-23 season. Yeah, last season, none in 18 matches. Darren Bent, 24 goals for Sunderland in the 09-10 season. Yeah, he never hit double digits in the Premier League season after that. Losing out on Sesko to Man United actually makes me feel like ripping off my own tongue, because going from a prime Isak to now Bent the sequel. Lads, Man United said they weren't even going to bid for Sesko unless Sesko told them he wanted to join.
Oh, I'll only ask you out if you tell me to ask you out.
What are you, 14? What's this, a game of spin the bottle in your uncle's shed? Lads, why does nobody want to come and live in Newcastle? What is this myth that's been peddled in football circles for years, that it's a horrible place to live? Seriously, this club of ambition now are in the Champions League. They've just won a cup, and yet these superstars are treating the prospect of living on Tyneside as if they've just been offered a bed and breakfast on Mars. Do these footballers think that living in Newcastle is like hibernating in an igloo? Do they think that the sun just doesn't appear in the northeast and that everyone just lives in the dark? No, this isn't Iceland, mate. Newcastle is a lovely place to live, and yet these players, they treat it as if it's a swamp where every second person they pass on the street is cheerfully on his way to impregnate his aunt. No, it's nonsense. Why? Why is everyone rejecting Newcastle? Lads, the club's other 2 alternatives to Sesko are, Chelsea's Nicholas Jackson. Look, he's not as bad as everyone thinks, but he's a 1 in 3 striker. His stats are similar to what Fernando Torres's were in a Chelsea shirt, and he was a complete burnt up banana at Stamford Bridge. And the other target is the laziest bit of research I have ever seen in my life. And lads, Newcastle won't sign a guy off YouTube clips. Yeah. It's Sesko's strike partner, Lois Openda. Yeah, after doing their homework on Sesko, after trying to get this one over the line, when it fails, their master plan is just to get the other one. The other Leipzig striker. The one who apparently was on the cusp of a move to Sunderland last week. Please excuse me whilst I wish for a giant bumblebee to swallow me whole. Lois Openda. Lois Openda. I mean, it's quite fitting, really. We're losing Isak, a man who is literally our Superman. And yeah, so tumbling down our list of targets, we're now trying to sign someone who's got the same name as Superman's girlfriend. The first image you get of this bloke when you Google him is seeing him in a Sunderland shirt. I can't unsee that now. It's a bit like when you see an old photo of your wife getting jiggy with your dad. It's the rejections that feel like a liver punch to the ego. It's like, imagine if you suddenly got rich and then you went down your local speed dating event and every single female still told you she wouldn't go out with you because you look like Winnie the Pooh, or that she thinks that your tattoo of Elmo windmilling is weird. Everyone wants to turn down Newcastle, but why? Do you honestly think that Tyneside is like stepping foot into Mordor? You would think that Sesko would want to join a Premier League club which other Slovenians have played for. What Slovenians have represented Manchester United in the past? Does Haris Vukic mean nothing? Well, yes. You can't make this up. What a rotten nightmare summer for Newcastle. But I'm not going to scream and wail like a banshee with the mumps because it's a far better time than the gloomy Ashley days when the fans were literally told to get excited about signing Jeff Hendrick from Burnley on a free. Seriously, I remember being so ground down over the lack of transfer activity for years and years and years that I remember being an excited little chipmunk having to gasp for air by the club moving mad to sign a fat Danny Rose on loan. I remember being over the moon when the club were borrowing Islam Slimani from Leicester. I remember the days when a £12 million deal for Matt Ritchie felt like the Magpies had just unveiled Zidane. The club did not spend money under Ashley, so I don't want to feel like an out-of-touch spoiled brat. But Newcastle have been rich for nearly 4 years now. Within 4 years of Man City becoming rich, they were Premier League champs. But yeah, I mean, I know they did have rejections at the start of their regime too, because they tried to sign superstars. I remember when they tried and failed to buy peak treble-winning Samuel Eto'o. They were also stiffing on Cristiano Ronaldo the day they got rich.
City also tried and failed to sign Villa, Henry and Buffon.
A Man City delegation travelled to Turin to hold talks with Juventus over Gianluigi Buffon, the current world champion and in many people's eyes, the greatest goalkeeper to ever live. I mean, what other footballer in the world do you know finishes runner-up with the Ballon d'Or was playing in Serie B? So the absolute gall on Man City to think they could try and persuade him to come and live in rainy Manchester to play for a team who recently conceded 8 at Middlesbrough. It would be like expecting me to be able to convince Jay-Z to come around mine to watch Cow and Chicken. David Villa was also the most in-demand striker in the world. He was 2008's version of Alexander Isak, an absolute Rolls-Royce clinical superhuman centre forward who Valencia were always going to sell. He had every major club in the world eyeing up, and yeah, Man City tried to get him. Yeah, by direct contrast, within 2 months of Newcastle getting rich, they were hitting up Burnley for Chris Wood. Man City wanted John Terry. They wanted Cesc Fabregas the minute they got rich. And Kaka too. Newcastle were having to beg Manchester United if they could borrow Jay Lings. Seriously, bending over backwards for Jesse Lingard. That was embarrassing. And a complete sign of desperation. Man United's behaviour over that deal was pretty cruel as well. Demanding a 12 million loan fee for 6 mouldy months? Are you insane? It's like a homeless person asking you for a spare Kit Kat and you say you'll only give it to him if he licks his feet. That's why it would have been so glorious for Newcastle to beat Man United at the signing of Sesko. Lads, let me take you back to 2004. And I was a little boy who thought that smashing your face off the kitchen table equals getting free money from the Tooth Fairy. But I vividly remember Newcastle trying to sign Wayne Rooney. And I got excited. This 18-year-old sensation at Everton had just ripped apart Euro 2004. He was the most sought-after young talent in the world. And on the 24th of August, a week before the transfer window shut, Newcastle lodged a £20 million bid. I mean, do you know what's actually ridiculous? 20 million was huge money at the time. The Toffees said no, but Newcastle never spent 20 million on anyone in their entire history. And they still wouldn't until 15 years after this bid. Seriously, they literally had the 20 millions for Rooney in 2004, and yet wouldn't spend that much money on someone until Mickey Almiron in January 2019? Doesn't that just make you sick? The fact that Mike Ashley consistently ignored his piggy bank of funds even more than he did salads in the canteen. Oh, what a mess that was to be a Newcastle fan. But yeah, I remember being extremely excited at the thought of Rooney and Shearer up front. But no, Man United swooped in and got it. And it wasn't just Rooney who Man United stole from Newcastle in 2004. Oh no, they took Alan Smith too from Leeds. How does a Leeds United fanatic, a boyhood diehard Leeds fan, wind up at Manchester United when he's literally been given a £5 million pathway to St James's Park instead? If he had joined Newcastle, then he wouldn't have to check his cheeseburger for spit when having lunch anywhere near Ellen Road. But the Magpies would eventually get their hands on Smith when Man United gave them to him when he was a finished, crumpled up juice box of a footballer who'd had his legs smashed into oblivion. This was a Champions League striker and potential England international number 9 while at Leeds. But he goes to Newcastle for 7 million, gets everyone excited by scoring the winning goal in his debut in a pre-season friendly, and then he doesn't score a single goal for the club. And he was there half a decade. I don't care that he was moved back in the midfield. He never scored for Newcastle in any competition. And he went 70 Premier League matches in a row without a goal. Newcastle were sold a dud. And not for the last time. Oh, no. We were having to beg Sir Alex Ferguson for more crumbs as if we were pesky pigeons. RB Leipzig was one of the worst signings in Man United history. Oh, don't worry. Newcastle will take this dreadful winger off your hands. And he'll go on to score a pathetic 3 goals in 5 years at the club. The club were also throwing a young Giuseppe Rossi on loan as well. Did nothing. He was about as pointless as a jigsaw puzzle in Stevie Wonder's house. 1 goal in a Newcastle shirt. 1? No wonder Sir Alex Ferguson used to call Newcastle a wee club in the northeast when they were literally buying his rubbish. Seriously, that man could probably convince Alan Pardew to buy the socks he used to wipe cornflakes off his rug. Manchester United have consistently treated Newcastle like their little ugly cousins, giving them their grubby hand-me-downs that no longer fit, or in the cases of Rossi, Smith and Obertan, clothes that never fit. Christ, it says it all when the best player that Newcastle took from Man United was Danny Simpson, a right back who grew up to box a nerd on misfits. So the fact that Man United have once again coasted into Big Brother Newcastle whilst sitting 5th bottom of the league, I almost respect it. Because it's not like Sesko would have grown up seeing Man United winning everything. Nah, he was 9 the last time you won the league. I didn't know you still had this pulling power to take players from Champions League clubs, but I guess you do, so well done. So, well done Man United, but Newcastle, keep Isak. You have to. You have to. I don't want Jackson, I don't want Watkins, and I certainly don't want Lewis. Keep Isak, please! Anyway, that's the end of the video. Let me know in the comments. What do you think? Let me watch Newcastle do. Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to go out. Share, subscribe as always. I'll talk to you in a while.